Welcome back, Craig here. So we are finishing our restoration of President Lincoln, and we're pretty much done cleaning up the background. And the last thing we want to do is he looks a little bit flat and doesn't have a lot of contrast. He also looks a little bit light too. So what I'm going to do is, this is a grayscale file. We're going to talk today about making adjustments in Camera Raw. And I like to make adjustments and light and dark contrast when I'm working on color. There's nothing better than working in a Camera Raw filter. You seem to have so many more tools than you do just in a basic curves or levels or brightness contrast filter in Photoshop. So we want to make sure we have either a grayscale or an RGB file. In this case, we have a grayscale. This is a grayscale file. And we're going to, first we have to make sure that we turn our layer into a smart layer. So I'm going to convert this, a smart object. I'm going to convert this layer to a smart object. What I did here was I control clicked on the layer, and I'll bring this up to convert to a smart object. And what this does is it basically just allows us to apply filters to that layer in a non-destructive way. So we can always take the filters off, or we can also go back and change what we've done to them, re-edit them with that same filter. Otherwise, if we applied Camera Raw to this without changing it to a smart object, it would be destructive and we would affect the actual photograph. So now that I've converted this to a smart object, I'm going to go under Filter to Camera Raw Filter. And this will open up a separate palette, and you will see all of your tools over here. You'll see your photograph in the middle here. Nice little feature this has down here is you see the little Y down here. This kind of cycles between the before and after views. If I click once on here, it shows me before and after, and it even labels the windows, which is nice. So I can see all of my new adjustments here in comparison to the original. So I'm going to stick with, this time through in Camera Raw, we're just going to stick with some of the basics, and this is actually the Basics tab. And I'm going to go through, and we're going to start with the blacks. And the blacks seem a little bit light to me, so I'm going to pull the blacks toward the black. And you can see if you pull them, you can make this really dark. I'm going to start with something about a 50. Darken these just a little bit. Then I'm going to hop up to the shadows, and I'm going to pull the shadows the opposite direction, because this works a little bit with the midtones as well. And you can see how I want to pull more of the midtones out, especially in the jacket, a little bit in the beard, and still see some of that detail. So I like rounded numbers, so I like sometimes 5s and 0s. So I'm going to pull this up to a 40. Put this at a 55. And then we'll look at the highlights next. The highlights, I think we want to reduce those just a little bit. I'm noticing in here there is still some gray, and you don't want to blast out all your whites. So I'm going to, if I blasted out my whites, you'd see just nothing but pure white in here. The way I can tell there's pure white in here, by the way, is if you look up here at your RGB values, 255 is pure white in RGB, and I'm at 254. There I just hit 253. I thought I saw 255, which is a pure white, but anyway, I'm going to pull back this highlights, and we'll put that at about 40. So that will give us more value. You always want some gray in your whites. So the contrast, I'm going to bump the contrast up just a little bit. You can see I can really bump it up and darken those, lighten it quite a bit. Or the contrast would actually just dull it, so you wouldn't have as much contrast. Again, in Photoshop, there is no magic. Your eyes are the magic. So look at what you see. If you like that, tweak it a little bit. I'm constantly going back in here and adjusting these. Just because I set one at 55 doesn't mean it shouldn't be at 45. So we'll take the contrast to 10, and I have a negative 40 here, positive 40 in the shadows, and a negative 55 to really darken up those blacks. So I really like how this looks, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here on his face and you can see the difference. This window, by the way, is also adjustable. You can open this up so it's full screen if you prefer to work that way. So I see the differences that I've made. I've really, I think, darkened the darks but left a lot of the detail in the darks. I can still see the lines in his beard. I can still see the texture in his coat. If I want to preview this in a different before and after mode, I can come down here and click on the little preview window again, and it'll split the view for me. This is a view that I use quite a bit, so you can really get in here close and see what you changed as you scroll through here. And you can also hold your space bar down and move this, so you can see, like if I split the beard in half, this is the new beard, this is the old beard. As I scroll down, see the changes. And you can go back. You can do this vertical, you can do it horizontal. And now we're back to the original, and I will go back to just the split view. So that is the Camera Raw filter applied to the smart object of this layer. I'm going to now click OK, and that will make the changes. It'll apply that filter, and you see down here on the layer, I have a smart filter, and that smart filter is the Camera Raw filter applied to the smart object. The little icon you can see in the lower part of the layer icon, that tells me that that's a smart object. So the beauty of this, if I don't like what I did and I want to adjust it, I'll just double click on the Camera Raw filter layer, and I'm back into the Camera Raw filter. All of my settings are still in there. I can adjust them and click OK. It will apply them, or in this case I didn't do anything, and you're back to your adjusted photograph. So this really wraps up our restoration of Abraham Lincoln. I think he has a nice look to him, and I really like the detail. This original photograph was excellent anyway. This is a photograph taken obviously by the government. It's in the public domain, but it's a really crisp image to start with, but what we did to it I think made it look even better. All right, thank you.